Imagine saving for years to buy your dream home, only to be told it's worth a fraction of its true value because you're black. That's exactly what happened to Ebony and Marcus. So they tried a bold experiment. They whitewashed their home, hid every trace of their black identity, and asked a white friend to pose as the owner. The new appraisal is skyrocketed by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's uncover the shocking truth behind this blatant racism in real estate and why it matters to us all. Ebony and Marcus both grew up in hard-working middle-class families who believed homeownership was the key to building a secure future. After years of saving, they finally purchased their first house in a neighborhood they loved. Tree-lined streets, nearby schools, and the kind of stability they'd always dreamed about. But despite their optimism, they couldn't ignore the unsettling stories surrounding black homeowners, undervalued appraisals, suspiciously low offers, and glaring disparities in mortgage rates. They knew they were stepping into a system shaped by decades of redlining and housing discrimination, where entire neighborhoods were once marked off limits for black families. While those practices are now illegal, their legacy lingers in property values, loan approvals, and, as Ebony and Marcus would discover, appraisals. Today, nearly 74% of white households own their homes, compared to about 44% of black households, reflecting not just a wealth gap, but a generational imbalance built over time. It's about more than just numbers on a page. This disparity echoes in communities, opportunities, and the everyday struggle for a fair shot at the American dream. When Ebony and Marcus first decided to sell their home, they went through the usual steps: tidying up, making minor repairs, and scheduling an appraisal to set a fair asking price. But when the number came back, it was shockingly low, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands below what similar homes in their area were listed for. At first, they questioned whether it could be just a market or a misjudgment by the appraiser. Yet, the more they compared data on nearby properties, the clearer it became. There was no logical reason for such a low valuation except that the owners were black. They spoke with friends and family, and time and again, similar stories emerged. Black homeowners receiving bafflingly low appraisals that seemed to mysteriously improve once all traces of their cultural identity were removed. Determined to find out if they too were being profiled, Ebony and Marcus decided to conduct a risky experiment. They removed family photos, took down Afrocentric artwork, and even stored away certain books that hinted at their heritage. In a move that felt as painful as it was necessary, they were prepared to temporarily erase the very elements that made their home feel uniquely theirs. For the second appraisal, they enlisted the help of a close friend named Ryan, who happened to be white, to pose as the homeowner. Instead of Ebony and Marcus greeting the appraiser, Ryan answered the door, calmly explaining that he was the owner and had lived in the home for years. Everything else about the house remained unchanged. Same structure, same square footage, same location. The only alteration was the absence of any visible markers of black culture. When the second appraisal came in, the valuation soared by hundreds of thousands of dollars. That single number confirmed what they had suspected all along. The same house could be worth drastically different amounts solely based on the race of the perceived owner. In that moment, Ebony and Marcus experienced a blend of relief and seething anger. Their experiment had laid bare an uncomfortable truth about the systemic bias in real estate. It wasn't about a personal failing or a mistaken judgment. It was about a deeply entrenched system that still valued a home differently based on who was behind his door. It wasn't just Ebony and Marcus who felt the weight of this injustice. Their story mirrored countless others across the country. Black families facing lowball appraisals, higher mortgage rates, and a system that still judges them based on race rather than financial merit. Even though redlining and overt discrimination have been banned for decades, the legacy lingers in subtler yet equally damaging forms. Appraisers often unconsciously assign lower value to homes in Black neighborhoods or those visibly owned by Black people, reinforcing a vicious cycle that keeps generational wealth out of reach. The ripple effect goes beyond a single bank statement. A low appraisal can mean less equity for renovations, diminished ability to invest in other properties, and reduced options when it comes time to refinance. Over years and generations, this gap widens, contributing to the stark racial wealth disparity we see in America today. For many Black homeowners, having to whitewash their home, removing family photos, cultural art, and personal mementos just to get a fair appraisal is a deeply painful reminder of how skin color still dictates economic outcomes. Yet, shining a light on these stories is one crucial step toward accountability. The more people see how deeply embedded racial bias is in housing, the harder it becomes to deny the need for systemic reforms. Real change may be slow, but with each injustice brought to the surface, conversations spark about fair housing laws, stricter oversight of appraisers, and better consumer protection. Most importantly, it forces us to ask, if this is still happening today, how many families are being robbed of the future they rightfully deserve? Ebony and Marcus's experience isn't just an isolated story, it's a warning sign that racial bias remains deeply ingrained in America's housing market. Having to hide your culture and identity to receive a fair appraisal isn't just unfair, it's dehumanizing. But sharing their story reveals the cracks in the system, prompting conversations about stricter regulations, better oversight, and more consumer awareness. It's also a reminder that changing the laws on paper is just the beginning. Changing hearts, minds, and deeply rooted biases demands consistent effort. If this story resonated with you, share it. Talk about it with friends, family, or on social media. Educate yourself on fair housing advocacy groups like the National Fair Housing Alliance that push for reforms in lending and appraisal practices. If you or anyone you know has faced similar discrimination, consider seeking legal advice or filing a complaint under fair housing laws. Only by shining a light on these injustices and refusing to accept them as the norm can we break the cycle and help every family build the future they deserve. Thank you for watching. If you found value in this video, please leave a comment or share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that uncover the hidden truths shaping Black history, culture, and everyday life.